Hey there, got a knife review for you. This is Shecky. This is the Buck 186. Um, Basically, there's a few good things to say about it and a whole bunch of bad. So, this is going to be a fairly negative review. I will tell you, as odd as it sounds, this is the knife I was carrying for quite a while because I wasn't worried about losing it and I wasn't worried about being rough on it. So, just just a quick review of it. Overall, the size is good. It, it's a nice feeling knife. The scales, I think they're kind of, as I tell, they are smooth, which I kind of prefer. Like I said in my another previous video, this is a 99% for EDC tasks, and I don't need a real rough knife, just enough to be able to grab onto it and feel like I've got it. Um, the blade shape is kind of odd, kind of a teardrop shape. The deployment hole is really problematic. If you compare it to another knife, a knife I just kind of updated, this is the bird has kind of an odd shaped hole as well. But I want to make one quick point here. When they're closed and ready for deployment, when you want to deploy the bird, your finger nestles in that kind of round portion and it makes it a good bit easier to deploy. On the buck, you never really can get a good purchase on that hole. It's narrow and then closes sharply, and it's really kind of hard. It's very common for me to kind of slip off when I try and deploy it. So that's definitely a knock on it. You don't have a whole lot of blade here beyond the serrations. If you look at most of my videos, you can tell I am not a big fan of combo blades, mostly because I don't like to sharpen them. I don't like to get out my little Lansky triangle and try and get into all those grooves. It's just a pain. So generally speaking, I will get a plain edge and just keep it very sharp. In the hand, the knife is fairly comfortable. The jimping on the top is just enough to be able to get a good grip on it. The liner lock, this is obviously a liner lock now that I just said that, works nicely. The actual locking mechanism springs well into the blade area, so I feel like it's going to lock positively every time. The drawback here is that it's thin and it sticks out quite a bit. If you can see that, it sticks out quite a bit and it's jimped pretty sharply. So when you really go to town and grab that thing, it can be a little painful. Just not the most fun knife to just kind of grab a hold of. So this pocket clip I think is entirely too long and it's seated too low. It is, however, a well-designed pocket clip, has just the right amount of spring. I don't like a real tight pocket clip. I like one that'll grab, but, is more on the loose side as far as being able to get it out easily as opposed to securing it, because, that's really what I'm doing with it. I like the shape of the end, the way it cups up. It's got a real good flare on it, but it's nice and rounded, so it doesn't snag on things. One thing I will say, going back to the scales real quickly, this is a rivet construction, so you can't take the scales off, and it's got this little proprietary pivot screw with two little holes on it, and I was really concerned because when I first started using this knife it was way too tight, and I actually took a couple of mini screwdrivers and kind of crisscrossed them and just barely moved that screw and got a lot better action out of the knife. I mean, I can deploy it completely without moving my hand, just completely on thumb tension alone, which I like. And another good point, and this kind of speaks to Buck's overall build quality, it does not move. Even loosened as much as I did, this thing is rock solid, up and down, side to side, nothing. This is a USA built in America model. I believe there is a non version. I will annotate the steel. I can't remember what it is right now, but I did find it online. Overall, I'd say a below average knife. If you get it cheap, like I did, very, very cheap, like sub $10 from a local vendor that was just trying to get rid of it, not a knife vendor. Hardware store here had it in stock and had it on clearance, and it was the only one. It's kind of a local hardware store. They don't have any chains or anything, so I can't recommend anybody to go ask about it. But if you get a chance, if you see this knife for an inexpensive amount and it fills your need, I would suggest picking it up. If it's cheap enough. I would not pay more. I would not get into the realm of a bird, because I think the bird is a vastly superior knife in every way. I think this knife is just at that age of when we first started getting these kind of pocket clip carry, flip out knives, and I don't think they had a lot of the kinks worked out at this point. So I think they were a little more interested in making an individual knife rather than a usable knife. So there's my review of the Buck 186. I can't ever remember the name of it, so I have to peek on the blade. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Thanks.